Hello, I'm Alicia and I'm from Group 8 and I'll be talking about the findings in Chapter 4 and 5. So, the measurements and analysis data of our result using the descriptive statistics and the inferential statistics. They are used for understanding the portrayal of the whole research, which also involves the mean, median and mode according to Investopedia. In order of that, two tests which were according to Survey 2016 in the article of difference between parametric and non-parametric tests. Parametric test is a factual test involve particular presumptions to our research on populous parameter, and non-parametric test is measurable test that utilize on account of non-metric autonomous factors. In fact, research was carried out by using SPSS system for parametric tests of means and non-parametric tests of medians.
Hi, I'm Hui En. I'll be talking about the background information of respondents, which are the factors of our research. For gender, female responded more than male because they tend to show more concern towards our research. For age, respondents who are 20 years old has the highest percentage because most of them we approach are from this age group. For race, Chinese will be the majority from our research as this is the biggest group in the university. For education, 43.5% of the respondents are having the CGPA of 3.1 to 3.5 as they are mostly above average.
Okay, first I'm going to talk about the discussion of objectives. The first objective will be to investigate the awareness of college youths on the matters of public relation responding during crisis communication. So the first question will be, does the respondents' organization, their education provider, use social media to respond to crisis? And actually 35.3% of them, 35.3% out of 400 respondents choose to agree to it. As for the second questions, 48.5% of them actually agree to their education providers being concerned towards the public's well-being. Next, 52.3% of the 400 respondents choose to agree to the use of social media to save time when responding to crisis communication. Subsequently, 48% of them agree that social media improve their education institution's image. And on the 7 questions, 52.5% of the respondents agree that social media encourages a two-way communication during a crisis, while 45.8% of the respondents actually agree that social media reaches to a wide range of stakeholders to their to their education providers. And finally, 48% of them agree that social media actually help to improve stakeholders' perspective of the education institutions during a crisis. So the literature review for this objective is the study by Laura and Jennifer to encourage a feeling of network and association among teachers and to expand familiarity with current training and related subjects and concerns. The next objective, which is objective 2, is to enhance the knowledge of public relations as crisis communication tool among college youths. For the questions about telling college mates about public relations, out of 400 respondents, 45% of them actually choose to agree with it. 54% of the respondents agree to encourage their college mates to be more interactive on social media, and there are actually 46.3% of the 400 respondents agree to rely on public relations to solve crises. And for the questions about the research on crisis communication tools, there are actually 43.3% of the respondents agree with it. There's the other 43.3% of the respondents agree that they are always active on the social media, and the respondents agree that they can gain more knowledge to public relations. There are 48.8% of them, and there are another 45% of the respondents disagree that they will learn to communicate with people through social media. And okay, so the study by Salvini P. Gabriel and Chia Hengko analyzed if web-based live is being utilized by public relations specialists in Malaysia to impact about their association with the constituent and to examine if social media is being used in the PR practice to speak with a strategic public. Okay, next I'm going to talk about objective 3, which is to evaluate the relationship between public relations and crisis communication among college youth. For the question about public relation take place in the organization or the institution and daily activity to solve the problems on crisis communication, out of 400 respondents, 45.5% of them actually choose to agree with it. Another 49.5% of the respondents, they actually agree that their organization or institutions monitors social media for issues that possibly impact the company. There are actually 46% of the 400 respondents agree that the organization or institution provide training for crisis management. For the question about the organization determine the competencies needed to communicate effectively in a crisis, there are actually 53.5% respondents agree with it. 49.3% of the respondents agree that their organization often role-play crisis scenarios and have a formal crisis response plan. The respondents agreed after a crisis occurred, their organization or institutions have changed how it operates. They are 48.5% of them. The study by and Jean Salaby talks about the effects of public relations in an organization and to investigate the strategies used to solve crisis communication from audience perspective, and also to study a person's attitudes during a crisis. Okay, last but not least, objective 4, which is to determine the willingness of college youth in taking part in crisis communication. For the question, do the respondents are fine with not taking any action if there is any dissatisfaction? Out of 400 respondents, there are actually 35.3% of them choose to agree with it, which means they agree not to take any actions if there is any dissatisfaction over services or product, including facilities provided by institutions. So there's actually another 57.5% of the respondents agree that they are concerning the case that related with public relation, and there are 48% of the 400 respondents believes that consumers have the rights in speaking about their dissatisfaction. And for the questions about confidence in taking public attention from crisis management, actually 46.5% of respondents agree with it. Another 42.8% of the respondents agree that they would likely to take part in crisis communication, while the respondents agree that they have been taking part in crisis communication over services or products. There are 50.3% of them. And a study carried out by Christian Franz is to evaluate would participants willing not to take actions even facing dissatisfactions over products or services.
I'm Sojushen and I'm here to share about the hypothesis result of our topic. In our previous video, Sammy has shared the 4 hypotheses, as in gender has significant relationship, age has no significant relationship, education has significant relationship, and race has no significant relationship regarding our topic. Our first hypothesis, gender, has come out a positive result, as it proven that it has significant relationship within college youth in using PR as a tool of crisis communication. Citing from the article of the power to decide, women, decision making and gender equality, the writer supported that women should likely to take on opportunities as advantages by institutional and structural that may change the present situation. Thus, we believe that females would likely to take crisis communication as a chance to give themselves as an advantage, such as look for suitable or solution that given out by the public relation when crisis communication happen. Our second hypothesis, age, has come out a negative result. Thus, it is clearly to show that different era causes different individuals with different mind thinking and impacted the college youth in decision making. The next hypothesis is the education. The education has come out a positive result, as in the article of the impact of educational programs on learning and school participation in low and middle income countries by Snivet and a lot of writers. They have mentioned that remain the same style of learning module that would lead to no effective result. Thus, education of an individual impacts the individual in making decisions on how to deal with the crisis communication. Last but not least, our fourth hypothesis of race has shown a positive result. We believe that race would just an identity for every individual. In fact, there are also different living circle of race in Malaysia that cause different thinking and decision making when crisis communication happen. As in conclusion, 3 hypotheses accepted but 1 hypothesis, which is age, is not accepted. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Huey Ng. I'll be talking about the 2 theories that we use for our research. First will be the media dependency theory, which explains media is dependent by the society to meet their needs. According to our results, specifically to Objective 1, which is to investigate the awareness of college youths on the methods of public relations responding during a crisis communication, this theory can be applied to our study as most of our respondents agree that they use social media to respond to a crisis. Secondly will be the social learning theory. This theory can be applied to our study because the college youth tend to not filter up the content before they post it online, and also they tend to learn from online. We believe that when the people are active on social media, they tend to learn directly whatever is posted on the social media.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about qualitative research. The first one, our first objective will be social media help encourage two-way communication during a crisis, and objective 2 will be social media as a platform for crisis management, and the next one will be my organization is monitoring social media for issues that may impact our organization, and the last objective will be I believe consumers have the right in standing by speaking out their dissatisfaction. Okay, so based on our research, 3 out of 4 respondents agreed that social media is a platform which encourages two-way communication. Next, 3 out of 4 respondents agreed with the statement social media is a tool during crisis management, while one of them is neutral with it. Furthermore, it's also 3 out of 4 respondents think that their organization will monitor social media for the issues that may impact their organization. Not least, all respondents believe that consumers have the rights to speak out their dissatisfaction.
I'll be talking about the limitations and recommendations. So the first limitation is our methods conducting this research was using an online survey where we sent it to our respondents through social media channels. The limitations of using the survey, they mostly give neutral and agree answers and not much thorough answers. And also, we recommend that for more types of data correction, and as our topic is not really known to the general college youth community, it would be better if there was a better yet brief description of the survey purpose and topic to get the critical responses. Secondly, most of the respondents came from the same university, and only a few were from other universities. So we recommend that the places for the surveys to be conducted in more than 1 or 2 universities. In order to get more responses, we need to go to heterogeneous campuses. This will be able to get us a wider comparison and perspectives of respondents. Next, we also did not have enough time to find respondents as it causes to rush within the time limit, and it is better for it to be for over a year, and this will be able for us to keep track of the number of participants for the survey. As for the cost, it did not cost us a lot, but there were more resources rather than just an online survey. Finally, the sampling that we had was too little, and it is better for us to conduct into a bigger size sample, like for example an area sampling in Nilai, Johor, or even Kota Damansara. Next is the social implication towards individuals, family, school, society, and global communities. As for individuals, they will benefit in sharpening their questioning skills. For families, they will be more aware and concerned towards universities' activities on crisis communication. The education providers in school will improve on monitoring and managing crisis communication. As for society, awareness on the public relations roles of the education providers will be spread even wider and will contribute better when reporting crisis. Finally, as for global communities, this will strengthen their ties or relations between society of the universities and the education providers. Communities will be able to trust and rely on public relations to solve in any communication that occurs.
In a nutshell, we found a hypothesis which is hypothesis 2, age is not accepted, but we understand that it may be because of the limitation that will be being discussed by Alicia in the previous scenes. Other than that, The next hypothesis which is from our result of our research is accepted. Through this statement, it can be concluded that race is part of the respondent's cultural identity and thus have an effect on crisis communication. Thank you.